Hey, friends, I'm Scott Hanselman, and it's Azure Friday. I'm here with Maxime Lukyanov. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Congratulations on a wonderful launch of the Postgres extension for VS Code. Could not have gone better. Huge numbers, number one on Hacker News, and I hear that people are loving it.
Yes, exactly. Like you know that, but not, maybe some people don't realize that Postgres is the most popular database on the planet right now. Like over the past 3 years, it took over MySQL, and there are many people now that choose Postgres as a primary database.
Hmm. Why is that? Like, what is it about Postgres that just captured the imagination of the developer community over the last kind of half decade or so?
Well, there is MySQL, right, that became less open source, and Postgres is a great database. It has great engine, and it is open source, right? And developers love open source. But on top of that, Postgres has this nice property of extensibility, right? You can install all kinds of extensions. So if you have some functionality in mind, you can just extend PostgreSQL with that functionality, which you'll see later today in the demo as well, and do basically anything you want with your database. So that's certainly drives adoption.
hmm And before the Postgres extension for VS Code, what did people use as their primary interaction with Postgres? Did they just do it from the command line?
Well, so that's great you ask. So Postgres is certainly a popular database, right? It's open source, great engine, but what was lacking is developer tooling, right?
Mm,
And what we did at Microsoft, we actually in last May we released new extension for PostgreSQL, and we integrated it right into Visual Studio Code. It's a high quality extension. You can expect all kinds of database management tools like query editing, execution, right? Database management tool. But we also did something special. We also integrated this extension with Copilot. So now this extension gives Copilot tools that allows it to understand your Postgres database schema, data inside of it, and even go manipulate this schema objects and data in the database like it's code. So that brings all of this Copilot 10x productivity improvements to the database developers, to the world of the database development.
very cool. Okay, now I want to see that. Like, I want to, like, I hear you, but I don't believe you until I see a live demo.
Well, let's switch to live demo then and take a look at what new extension for PostgreSQL has to offer. So here we are in the Visual Studio Code. I have installed the extension already. And the first step we can take here is to connect to a database. So let's see how it works. So there are all standard connection parameters, right? Parameters. If you have connection string, you can use that as well. But the most convenient one, if you're on Azure Postgres, other clouds and on-premises configurations also supported. But if you're on Azure, you can just simply say, hey, here's my subscription. I already logged in into Azure. So I can just say, hey, pick my database, and I can browse from the list of my database on Azure and select one. We also support various authentication types, and that is super important. Databases come with a variety of very strong and great legacies, right? Database is a well-known software tech. But what they also come from is a very bad habits. Like it's very easy to create your so-called temporary database with some simple password, right? Only for later on to for that database to be hacked. So our advice is don't use passwords, right? In this new world, you can use some passwordless solution, and Azure Authentication offers EntraID, which completely eliminates these passwords from the picture and offers you much greater enterprise security. And our extension fully supports that. So now I can choose my EntraID as authentication mechanism, and without entering anything, I can create this connection and connect to my database. So here in the database, what I have is a few databases. Brewery database is the example that we'll use today. Let's visualize the schema of that database. You can see that it's empty. So we are starting from scratch. So usually when I starting from scratch from a project, right, I need to import data, do all of this stuff. But now with the help of Copilot, these steps become super simple. So I can use this gesture to connect my GitHub Copilot to my database, right? And I can simply say, hey, import some data from this open source brewery dataset that I have found on the web, right? So this open brewery data set has a fairly small set of breweries data, which is very convenient for our demo. And they can import it into data. So what Copilot now can do, it can basically run commands on my behalf and also go into the database and create tables in the database. So now you can see it created my brewery table directly from the CSV description.
I like that
And
it's
then
showing you what
run
it's
some.
doing and it's
Yep.
walking you through what it's doing.
Cool. Yeah. So let's take a look. So what is happening? So these boxes here, right, that look expandable. So this is a tool calls. So this is the power of the agent mode in Copilot, where you can combine regular kind of reasoning capabilities of the Copilot with additional capabilities that tools offer it, right? Describing CSV schema to determine its schema, right? That's one of the tools that our extension offers. We can actually click here and see what tools our extension offers here. You can see it can explore the objects in the database. It can do bulk loading of the CSVs, the tools that we just saw, right? And all kinds of other operations. So now it uses describe CSV command, right? Then it checked that there are no tables in our database, and then created the table and loaded breweries data, right, using bulk loading CSV tool, and did a bunch of other kind of sample queries to validate that everything runs correctly.
Now, this is a CSV file, so there's an implicit, this is one table per CSV. Would there be a way that I could import a more sophisticated database schema with foreign key relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a power of the agent mode, right? It can look at the multiple CSV files at the same time, determine the order in which they need to be imported, right? And run multiple bulk loading commands, orchestrate all of that as one command.
Gotcha. And like postal code and phone number, I see that they put in as text. Depending on the country and the locale, those might be numbers, but I see that it did know that longitude and latitude were floats. Those are conversations you could have with agent mode.
Exactly. And longitude and latitude here is an interesting example. Like you're right, it correctly determined that, hey, it's a float type. So that's great first step. But I know Postgres, and one of the extensions, right, that is available for Postgres is PostJS extension, which offers very powerful geospatial capabilities. So if I want to do some cool stuff with this geospatial data, I actually need to convert this long lat data into the geospatial type.
Okay.
So usually, if I were to do that, right, so I would need to go read some documentation. Hey, what is this PostJS extension? What is the syntax? So it becomes kind of this boring data preparation task, right? And it would take me like 10, 15 minutes probably.
Yep.
But with Copilot, I can just simply say, hey, just go do that, right?
Yeah, that's a great point because you called out that it's boring and it's dull. Like we hear this word toil. It's tedious. It's just like you want to do it and now you have to wait 15 minutes until it's done and it's not fun. And here while I'm actually saying that, I'm watching it get done for you, which has got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, not only it gets done, right? It gets done very quickly, which is an illustration of this 10x development, right? So now I can proudly call myself like, hey, I'm a 10x developer, 10x
For a minute
database
or two,
developer.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
But it also does it fairly correctly. So the beauty of Java extension and Postgres as an open source database is that there is lots of data documentation, conversations about it out there in the web, right? So LLM actually learned a lot and has a lot of expertise, Postgres specific expertise. And here, if we scroll back here, like the first step that it did, it actually enabled PostJS extension on my database, right? So it knows that, hey, just partial data, I'm going to use PostJS extension. And it created all the schemas and prepared the data for me, right? And did the right conversion. So we can see location column here is added geography type.
Interesting. Now, that's a great point. It made a new column. Did it move latitude and longitude over and convert them, or is it offering to do that for you?
Yeah, it automatically did it. Well, that is a little bit of Copilot kind of taking freedoms, right? Sometimes it would do something for you that you expect. Sometimes it doesn't. So you need to look at what it did. So in this case, I think, where do we see it?
Well, if you look down at the bottom, scroll down just a smidge, it says that of those 8,400 rows, a couple thousand of them didn't actually have
Oh,
valid lat lawns. So that's interesting.
yeah. So it even validated like, hey, what data quality we have, right? So what was converted and what wasn't.
Interesting. Now, would that be hard to visualize?
Well, usually I would go and build an app manually, right? So all of that stuff.
Hmm.
But before we go, but in this case, we can use Copilot, of course. But before we do that, I
Hmm.
can run some queries, right, to
Okay.
double check that, hey, the data we talked about, hey, this breweries data, but
Right.
does it even exist, right? So
Now, are you going to write this by, select star from breweries to do it that way?
that's an old way, right? So, but now we can just ask Copilot to do that. So show breweries, right, in just 10
Oh,
miles
that's nice
around.
because you always have to do a radius search. I remember doing sine and cosine manually in SQL, trying to figure out how to do geospatial. It's not fun.
How long did it take you to figure it out?
It was a lot of Googling and a lot of Stack Overflow. And I had to actually get some. One time, about 10 years ago, when I was doing nerddinner.com, I had to get an actual graph paper and figure out how to do the radius math with the circle. Geospatial has come a long way since those days.
Well, yeah, at least you learned something back in the days. This time, I guess we will not learn anything, but we'll just tell
Well,
Copilot
we
to
are
do
going
it
to learn
for us.
something because it's going to show us how it did it, I think, which is
Oh,
the
that
exciting
is
part.
actually very good point. Uh, let's say I don't know how geospatial works in Postgres, right?
Hmm.
So now with this example query, it's a great way for me to learn about it.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think it's important to call out that when we see Copilot demos like this, some people may look and they go, "Oh, they don't need me anymore." You need the human in the loop, and this is also a great opportunity for me to learn how does this work on uh, on Postgres because I don't know. I know how to do it in Microsoft SQL Server, so I'd be very interested in what the query looks like.
Let's take a look. So here's a query that it ran. And there
Hmm.
is even an interesting thing that happened. You see this little red arrow
Yep.
or X. So the first time the query was generated by Copilot, it actually didn't run correctly. So let's take a
Oh,
look what happened. So if you run this query, it has some syntax error, right? So
yeah. I
something
tried
was
to
not.
use around, and it didn't like what it passed into st distance, and it probably passed the parameters incorrectly.
Yeah, so that would be a problem, right? But agent mode can learn from its own mistakes. So it look at the error right here and
Hmm.
rewrote the query.
Oh, and then cast it to a numeric before rounding.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the correct query.
Oh,
Well,
there it is.
the difference is very small, but now the query runs, right? And it returns breweries and even a distance to the brewery from Redmond. Yeah.
That's cool.
So one more thing that we can do here, we not only can learn about geospatial, right? But as a database administrators, we can also actually improve performance of our queries because Copilot has that knowledge. So let's simulate that. So for this query, right, it's a geospatial query, but there are no indexes for this geospatial query. So let's see if Copilot can actually realize that and
Hmm.
create correct indexes for us and improve query performance. So another learning opportunity here, it is collecting baseline execution plan, you see? So there
Hmm.
is a way to actually measure performance of the query.
Right,
So
right.
we'll,
How does
we'll
it
learn
work with
how to
no
do that soon.
indexes? Gotcha.
And then it ran creation of the index, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
so it created geospatial index and then rerun the baseline again. And here we go. So it was able to go from 20 millisecond execution time, right? And it had to read 500 buffers.
Hmm.
And after application of the index, it went down to just less than a millisecond, right? And with much less buffers used. So 63 times performance improvement.
Wow.
That's very cool.
And I
And
love that it gives you other ideas, right? You can go and look at your recommendations because it doesn't know your business. It doesn't know if you're going to do Washington only queries. You get to decide, and it's giving you suggestions.
Exactly. This is a very good kind of next steps on learning. And just to close on that learning opportunity, so this is how you actually
Mm.
measure performance of Postgres queries. There is a explain analyze with actually quite a few other parameters to measure query performance. So let's run it. Let's see what it does. Oh, it just shows you kind of a breakdown of all of the
Hmm.
query execution steps.
Right. And this is that example you gave before where it's learning from itself. It iterates. And these are explain analyze is non-destructive, and it's going to go and iterate and do it, do the stuff you would have done for 15 minutes, except it'll do it very quickly and everyone wins.
And when it does it correctly, it certainly looks like magic.
It does.
But
It
going
does.
back to your prompt, so visualization, right? So now we have these breweries, and we even kind of improve the structure of the database. Everything is ready for action, right?
Okay.
And now we can just say, hey, remember, we are in VSCode. It's not
Right.
just a dedicated database tool, right? It's also kind of an application development tool, and we can do both database and application stuff without switching context. So what we can kind of smoothly transition to, we can smoothly transition into building an actual app.
That's a great point, because what you're saying is that this extension has enabled VS Code to be a Postgres database development environment, but it doesn't turn it into a database only in development environment. We're still in VS Code, and it's going to go and make an app right now, and it's doing it. You can see it just made app in front end.
Yep.
Look at that. Looks like
So
it
here,
picked Python because we didn't declare what we wanted to do. Because it'll probably, this is interesting. I have found that Copilot tends to use Python, even though you're making a REST, a simple front end, because it's super easy to spin up a Python HTTP web server on, port 5000 or whatever it's going to decide to do. And certainly you could have been more specific if you chose to.
yeah. Well, in this case, I did mention
Oh, you did
Python.
say Python. My
Yeah,
bad.
fast, and even I specified even the
Oh, you said
framework fast
fast.
API. Yeah. So that's, but it still did a great job. So here's all of the queries that I need in my backend, right? Uh,
Gotcha.
like here is
All
a
right. Let's
geospatial
see it, because
query.
we got to, this will be our finale.
Finale, yeah, and the front end as well, right? With some hopefully meaningful stuff. So, in the interest of time, it's actually finishing up, right? But I have already run this generation, right?
Look,
And
is it going to succeed? I think it's done. Are we going to be? Because it would be
yeah,
great
let's
to see
just
it
wait
live. I
for a
know that
sec.
you were going
Yeah,
to like put the cake in the oven and then pull a cake out that's already baked. But we may actually nail this on the first try. Here comes the README. You got your environments. Yeah.
here's the README.
Okay. Do you need a virtual environment?
Yeah, for Python,
It's
I would need to
asking if
create
you
a.
need. It's asking permission. It looks like.
Oh, it wants to create one. That didn't happen before. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, of course.
Finale. Let's see. Sometimes it's very thorough. I don't know if I were making a basic fast API, I would have been so thorough and made a config.py and done everything so perfectly.
Definitely not the README on the first try.
I do love a good README. I know some people complain about a Copilot generated README, but often I will ask it to make me a README for my future self, because I want to know. I will, because I'm going to forget and I want to come back in a couple of weeks and look at this. So let's skip ahead to the
Yeah, it
final.
looks like
Who
it's
knows how
taking
long
its
it'll
time
take
on
to
the Python
download all of those
environment.
requirements.
Yeah, but with a prior attempt, I was able to run this generated code
Mhm.
with just one little bug in the requirements. I needed to switch from one Python package to another, but I was able to run it, and it's
Look at
pretty
that.
cool app.
See, I'm from Oregon, so that 210 right there over Portland indicates how many breweries there are in our little town.
Well, we're certainly beating you, right?
Fair, but there's like 5 times more people. So breweries per person, I think we got you beat, because we're a smaller
Wow,
town,
it's
Portland.
an interesting study. Yeah, like who is the first one on the
I could use
breweries?
Copilot to prove this information with Postgres.
We can certainly do that. But the cool thing, I didn't even know that leaflet library that was used here had this nice grouping clustering feature, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
see,
this
you
is
can,
fantastic. All
yeah,
of this I have done manually, and the fact that the water level has risen and the boat rising tides lift all boats, is really powerful. So where can people go right now and get this kind of power? Where can I get the Postgres extension for Visual Studio Code?
Uh, so we have this short URL, right? So you can go to pgsql-vscode to install it in your VSCode environment, or you can just snap this QR code so you can save the URL for later. Definitely give it a try, install the extension. If you're a Postgres developer, I think it's probably a must, at least to try. And if you're using another database, consider giving Postgres a try. It's a most popular database for a reason.
Fantastic. All right. I have been learning all about how to speed up production of intelligent apps, intelligent agents with an AI ready DB experience using the Postgres extension for VS Code and PostgreSQL today on Azure Friday.